Hi everyone, this is Abel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a ton of recommendations for you, specifically science fiction books, so let's get ready. But before we start, remember that if you enjoy science fiction and fantasy books, this is the perfect place for you. So if you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing, leave a like, share this video. Thank you. You may not know that my most viewed video in this channel, it's from more than 1 year ago. It was a video when I was sharing recommendations from other readers. I was asking suggestions about books, specifically space opera, that had a really far future setting that almost looked like backwards, and like the technology was so far ahead that it looks like medieval times. And this kind of mixture between extremely advanced technology and fantasy aesthetics. And of course, I had a lot of suggestions and a lot of really interesting conversations in the comments. I don't know why YouTube decided that that was the video that was going to be pushed to the bookish community, because it wasn't that good, and believe it or not, my English was even worse. My spoken English was even worse than it is right now, but it is what it is, and it is, for me, extremely popular. If you see the numbers that I get to do in my booktube channel, I'm really happy about it. But I told myself, you know what? I had a ton of recommendations on that video and a lot of suggestions that I didn't get to. And I also kept asking people for suggestions about science fiction and fantasy books, and especially in this one for science fiction books. So I said, maybe it's time to do another one. I have to explain a few things before we get to the nitty-gritty of the video. It looks like many people, even if the overwhelming consensus was really good for that specific video, but many people, they do not understand that these are not my recommendations. These are books, and you'll see why in the prompt that I shared on Reddit, that have been suggested by other readers, specifically on Reddit, X, and on Threads. These are not books that I am suggesting you to go and read. These are books that looks interesting for me, that I'm putting on my endless TBR, that I wanna get to read them, and if you have read them, I would like to discuss about those books with you. And I'm doing this specific, I'm telling you more about the specific details, because a lot of people get really angry because I don't mention their favorite books. And they call me a hack because I'm not mentioning those books. And it is mind-blowing to me in the worst possible way, that they don't understand that these are not my recommendations. That I'm really enthusiastic about those books because I want to read them, but I didn't actually read them. I haven't actually read them, and I would like to read them with you, even do buddy reads if it is the case. And another thing that I think is a really sad but a really effective segue is that I'm going to heavily monitor the comment section, because that video, it was flooded with really mean, really, in my opinion, really stupid takes, and many of them were attacking me personally in a way that I really cannot understand and I cannot accept. And I could leave those comments floating around in my comment section, and if I was allowed to, don't mind about them. But the fact is, if any one of you knows how YouTube works, we have an app called YouTube Studio that helps us to track our videos, to see how it goes and actually interact with viewers. If I don't respond to those or actually act on those comments, they will float around forever, and YouTube will keep telling me you didn't answer to that comment. So this is all to say that if you like those recommendations, fine. If you don't like them, fine. But if you think you can hurt me, don't bother. I'm going to heavily monitor those comments and cancel them. And if you're a subscriber and you keep doing having that attitude, and if you really want to fight, and if you really want to be with me, I'm going to ban you. Okay? Let's be clear. I love you all, even if when you behave badly towards me, but I don't have the mental bandwidth, the energy, and the strength to deal with that kind of negativity in my life. So the first batch of suggestions and recommendations, they come from Reddit, where there's this big community called Print SFF, and I'll actually link the discussion in the description box. And I asked specifically for recommendations about books that they deem to be underrated. Now, granted, this definition of underrated books and consequentially authors is really personal. Everyone will have their opinion about what that means. And I asked a similar question on X, but I went specifically for indie books. They will be in the later part of the video, and the same question that I posed on X, I repeated on Threads. Okay, and I will give you most of those recommendations in the second part of the video. So let's get started. So let's start with V.I.P.E.R on the Deep by Vernon Vinge. I understand that this is quite popular for many people. Many people consider it to be the best science fiction and space opera book of all time, their favorite book. But honestly, I have heard about it just in these comments. This is the first time I am in contact in any meaningful way with this author. And this is the first book. It should be a duology, but it is really confusing the way it is listed on Amazon, because we have V.I.P.E.R on the Deep, then we have A Deepness in the Sky, and then we have The Children of the Sky. So if you know better, is this a trilogy or is this a duology? And the third book, it is just another book set in the same universe, or and kind of a standalone, or how they call it then now, a equal. So a book set in the same universe but with different characters in the same time frame. I don't know, but basically this is about a universe where intelligence and the abilities of intelligent people are determined by the position that you have in the galaxy and in its solar systems. So if you live in a specific side place in the galaxy, you can be super intelligent, and if you live in other specific side of the galaxy, you can live basically on a medieval society with really limited resources and with people that have limited intelligence and abilities. And of course, this should be part of a greater story that has a lot of tension and a lot of action. And it is really well beloved by a specific subset of people that enjoy science fiction. They'll tell you that if you don't know Vernon Vinge and if you have never read V.I.P.E.R on the Deep, you're basically a noob. You cannot define yourself, you cannot call yourself as a science fiction aficionado or fan or anything else. So yeah, I want to read it, and if you have read it, please let me know. And if you want to read it with me, if we have to do some kind of a buddy read, let me know. The Gaia Trilogy by John Varleu. This has the first book, it's called Titan. It is about 7 people that have special abilities. It doesn't go into detail in the Amazon description, but they are tasked with a really strange mission because a new moon, a new satellite has been discovered, and they have to investigate it. And it says that they have to forge unlikely alliances to work together, and there's a mystery, of course, around this newfound moon. The author is a Nebula Award winner, so it should be quite popular, even if I have never heard about it. And it looks like this specific trilogy is really well beloved. It has a lot of 5-star reviews on Amazon. I want to read it. If you know anything about it, let's discuss about it. Then we have the Outword Ranger series by David Alastair Hyden. I think this is actually, it sounds actually as a prequel to another series, because if you read the Amazon description, it says this story is set 2 centuries before the fall of the Benevolence, that it should be the organization, the intergalactic organization that oversees the basic setting of this universe. I'm really curious to see where the story goes, and if you know this actually this series and you should know how it is organized, and if I am supposed to read this one first or if there's another series too. This is about a covert mission to recover or to get more information about some kind of super weapon, and the protagonists are an AI and an agent that have to work together in this huge universe that is kind of a milieu between different races, and there's some kind of telepathic middling in this setting. It has a ton of really good reviews as a series. There is a box set of the first 3 books. I think that this one has 5 books in total, and the people says that it's really original, the world building and the settings is really unique, that the characters are really engaging or relatable. So if you have read it, if you know anything about it, let me know, and I really wanted to give it a try really soon. Another series that I think many people know, but it has been rarely discussed on booktube or any other kind of social media. I think that many people understand the intrinsic value of this series because the first book has more than 900 reviews on Amazon, so it must be quite popular for a specific subset of fans, and it is by an author that I have heard about, but I've never read anything about, which is Ken MacLeod, and this series is called The Corporation Wars. The first book is Dissidents, and it sounds really original to me. Oh, by the way, it is blurbed by Peter F. Hamilton and by Kim Stanley Robinson, which are 2 huge names in science fiction too. So I guess this is underrated for me, and I know anything about this one, but quite few people will know what we're talking about. And we have 3 books. The first one again is Dissidents. It sounds strange for me because we have a battle on a large scale between bots and drones and androids and robots, and the 2 points of views are from the point of view of a man that who's been dead for many years, his mind has been transferred in a drone, in a bot, and on one side of this conflict, of the huge conflict that we have in this story. On the other side, we have an actual robot that it has for a and it says for a flicker of the fate, it became sentient. So we have 2 artificial intelligence, but one comes from the actual mind of a human being, and another one achieved sentience by some kind of a process that I bet will be explored in the book. It sounds really interesting, really original, and I want to see where the story goes. This sounds like that kind of large-scale space opera that I really enjoy, with big ideas, with an exploration of huge concepts. So let's see how it goes. Again, if you know anything about it, let me know. Another recommendation is about a series called Grimm's War. This is pretty long. It has 8 books, and it has ebooks, paperbacks, and audiobooks. This is really widely popular, but I have never heard about it. Not on BookTube, not on Reddit now, not on X. I don't know why. But it has more than 6,000 reviews, just the first book on Amazon, and if we combine all the 8 books and the 1,000 book of reviews that they have, there must be something special here. This is a space opera about a disgraced commander of a spaceship, captain of a spaceship, but it does something that completely destroys his life and his career, because he destroys during a battle. He takes down another ship, and he thinks he will be hailed as a hero because of this accomplishment, until he discovers that that ship was filled with children, babies. So he's a war criminal now. Something happens and he gets diverted to another spaceship on a fringe side of the galaxy, because he's basically disposable. They're sending him to do a really horrible death there. The thing, it sounds really bad and really sad, until we discover that it is really even worse, because they're on the verge of they say the bigger discovery of all time. Something's going on underneath. There's a conspiracy maybe, and yeah, I want to know, because we have 8 books with thousands of reviews and really popular and really beloved audiobooks that nobody seems to talk about on social media. So let's see what the fuss is about. And if you have read it, and if you have been listening to the audiobooks, let me know. This is a big one. It's called The Messenger series by J.N. Chaney and Terry Maggert. This author, especially J.N. Chaney, I have heard and I have mentioned in other videos. This is authors like him and many others, they seem to be extremely popular, especially on audiobooks. And because this series are really long, this one has 15 books and thousands and thousands of reviews for each one of those books, and they have multiple series and they do collaborations. So you see there is this subset of authors that have been able to amass a really huge amount of fans, and that they rarely get discussed on BookTube, on Ixon, and everywhere else. But they have multiple series, a ton of series, and they have a ton of books and really long series, and many of them are this long and this popular. And at the same time, when I ask recommendations, they actually get mentioned really often, because their fans, they think that they're underrated because they don't get discussed in the way we actually discuss our YouTube and BookTube darlings. But this one is about the captain of a spaceship that explores an ancient relic. It says that it is so ancient that it is older than the actual universe, and they find that this huge mecha, like in those anime and manga that we love so much. There is also some kind of a mass destruction weapon, and at the same time this mecha has an AI that spills prophecies about an imminent destruction of the universe and an ancient evil that is resurging. So yeah, it sounds really interesting, really action-packed, and it is so beloved for a reason, and I want to know why. And if you have heard about it, and if you have been listening to this on audiobooks, let me know. Let's discuss about this series too. This one sounds really good. It is by author M.R. Forbes. The series is called The Forgotten. There is a complete trilogy, and there is also a box set that you can find on Amazon for a relatively cheap price. This is about a generational ship, and one of the caretaker of the ship lives this life inside this generational ship that is headed towards a specific planet they're supposed to colonize. And the description gives you the idea that he would very much do a different life, but that at the same time he is at peace with the fact that he cannot achieve his dreams, and that he has to do what he has to do and to fulfill his duties, until his wife goes missing. He actually received a call from his wife telling him that she found a body on a deserted side at the edge of the colonized side of this generational ship. So it gives you an idea of how big it is. And when he goes and tries to contact his wife and find her and to see what's about with this body, he cannot find either his wife or the body. So there's a conspiracy there. And what's interesting for me too is that when you see the listing on Amazon, the box set with this trilogy is one of 10 other box sets with 10 other series. And I'm curious to see if it is an expanded universe with stories interconnected, or if each and every one of those box sets are completed series that stand on their own feet. I'm really curious. This one has almost 4,000 reviews on Amazon. Again, this is one of those authors that I just mentioned just before that seem to have a dedicated fan base, but they don't get discussed in any meaningful ways on social media. So, and I want to change that. And if you have heard anything about this book, if you have read anything from this trilogy or listened to it, have been listening to it on Amazon, on Audible, let me know. Now let's talk about an author and a book that it's supposed to be a classic because it is from 1984 of all years. And the book is Armor by John Steakley. And again, never heard about it, but it has almost 3,000 reviews on Amazon. So yeah, it must have been pretty influential in the time frame when it was released, and it's been suggested to me actually a couple of times on Reddit. So this is about a planet called Banshee, and about that it is uninhabitable, and then the air is unbreathable, it's actually poisonous, and about a soldier, which is a commando soldier that uses this body armor to fight and explore the planet and to resist the army of bio-engineered monster that try to fight and repel this kind of force of invasion that our protagonist is part of. And there's a specific section of the description of this book on Amazon that is really intriguing for me, and I want to read it because there's no way that I convey it effectively in the same way that the written text does. It says that this protagonist, Felix, is a scout on A-Team 2, highly competent. He is the sole survivor of mission after mission. Yet he is a man consumed by fear and hatred, and he is protected not only by his custom-fitted body armor, but by an odd being which seems to live within him, a cold-killing machine he calls the Engine. Why? What is this going on? I want to know. There's a good chance that many of you, especially science fiction fans, have read this book. So if you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think about it, let's discuss about this too. It sounds really, really strong. The last two suggestions that I gave you, by the way, they come from X. I will be continuing with suggestions that came from X. I'll try to link the specific threads when I got all of those recommendations down below. Another one is from author Nick Snape. He has an upcoming release, the starter of another series that is called The Wrecking Squad. And by the name, you can infer that it is about a group, the crew of a spaceship. They do repairings, but something happens during their last assignment, which is supposed to be the kind of a job that will change their life forever. They're supposed to gain a lot of money and become extremely wealthy because of this. But something happens because there is it's about an autonomous ship that goes rogue. They get to stop the ship and actually save the ship, but something else happened. There's a conspiracy there because they're forced and blackmailed, says the description, to take another member crew on the ship because of the consequence of what they did, because they get unjustly accused to be part of the disaster, probably. And this is the inciting incident for the larger conspiracy. I like that the last paragraph of the description on Amazon says that this is featuring the action of aliens, the camaraderie of Firefly, the infighting of the Expanse, and yeah, what can you ask more for modern science fiction and space opera? And the Choice of Weapons series, the other one, that is the most popular series by Nick Snape. It has really high rating on Amazon, a lot of really good reviews. I'm in the process of giving you my reviews at least for the first two books during 2025, so I'll let you know. But if this sounds interesting and if you want to read it, let me know. I'll probably do a body read. Who knows? The next suggestion is the Dark Galaxy series. The first book is called The Europan Deception by Ryan M. Patrick. And I can confidently say that this is not going to be underrated for so much. This is going to be released in May 6, 2025. And I can say that confidently because I am reading this book right now. And I can tell you, it is good. Really, really good. So think of it about like a mix between The Bourne Identity with that kind of spy story vibes, full of action, full of really cool and interesting technology, and the traveling, the extensive traveling that you have in that kind of books with those incredible scenarios around the world, but translated on a solar system level. So you have scenes with multiple POVs on Earth and on Mars and other colonies and on spaceships, and there's this huge conspiracy down there, and we have two operatives and a rebel that they are forced to work together to understand what's going on, because there is this huge mysteries that dates far back to Atlantis, because in this universe Atlantis actually existed. It was a really advanced society that ended for a specific reason, and the ripple effect, the consequence of the falling of that society are very much real and affect the future scenario that has been described in these books. As I've told you, this is really good. This is extremely cinematic. The hand-on-hand combat, the scenes that I have read so far are so effective and so engaging. They got me on the edge of my seat. Absolutely. Characters that are really interesting. The scenario is really believable. It's the kind of science fiction that could be described as hard sci-fi. Actually, I've watched an interview on the Birded Book Beast channel with Ryan M. Patrick, where described his process and his research pattern and his previous publication, and says that this trilogy is his dream trilogy. Is the series that he has always wanted to write, and I can tell. So you can give it a try. You can pre-order the book right now on Amazon. The Way Stations Trilogy by N.C. Scrimgeour. This is an epic trilogy, a space opera about, especially in the first book, I'm going to mention just the description of the first book, about the captain of a spaceship that has been tasked, she's been tasked with the really unlikely mission to find a new place for humanity. Now, I don't know if this is about specifically Earth, or it is about another colony that needs a new colony, because it says that time is running out for New Palace, which is probably the name of the colony. So she has to find a new place, a new planet, and she has to do it really fast. The only hope to actually succeed in this incredible mission is to use an ancient technology that is scattered around the galaxy on way stations. So it is ancient, mysterious, and probably difficult to understand technology, and at the same time this brings them in direct confrontation and probably war with another alien species. This sounds really, really interesting. It's been described as a character-driven space opera, so those are all buzzwords that really work for me, because you know how much I get attached to characters in my stories, in novels that I read. How much do I care about those characters, even much more than the big ideas and the plot and plot twists that we usually have in science fiction and fantasy. So yeah, I'm really curious about this. I think I've mentioned the first book many months ago, probably last year, but it's been a minute and I never got to read the first book. But it has been suggested to me again, and I wanted to give it a shout out. Also, the covers are all really good. They really look really, really good. So yeah, I'm going to give it a try, probably in 2025. The Envoys Trilogy by Peter J. Aldin. The first book is called Third Contact, and it says that it is based on the idea that in the current setting of the story, 900 years ago, we launched probes in outer space, hoping to find intelligent life in the dark. And fast forward to the year 3000 in the future, and humanity is a galaxy-spanning society that has colonized many planets. But there is, of course, infighting between government and pirates, and that fight, it suddenly stops because we hear back from the probes and we actually discover a alien society that extends an invitation to go and meet them. So the main protagonists and the crews are the one tasked to do that first, that third contact, as the title of the first book says, but they don't know if there will be friends or foes. It sounds really interesting. It has very good reviews on Amazon. The trilogy is complete, so if I love the first one, I will absolutely give it a try and read the whole things. And I will absolutely read the first book in 2025. If you have read this, and if you have opinions about it, let me know. The Space Warfare Group series by Charles Hack. I've been following the author on social media for quite a while, so I was really happy when he decided to extend a recommendations for his own series that has been, by the way, all the covers have been redesigned quite recently, and they give you an exact idea of the vibes that you can find in the series. It says that this is a genre blend between space thriller and hardcore military action. So if you're familiar with Tom Clancy, that kind of techno thrillers slash conspiracy theory thrillers and military action, but if you wanted to translate it on a space opera environment and kind of aesthetics, this is the one for you. And the Amazon description says that we have this specific group of action group, or a team of highly skilled soldiers guided by a man called Mac that is tasked to find and ascertain what happened to a diplomatic group. They were supposed to attend to a meeting. They never arrived. They find the spaceship, and what they find inside the spaceship is the beginning of a huge conspiracy. So it sounds like the hook of the classic high-octane techno-thriller that we loved during the 80s and 90s. Why don't we have anything like that anymore? We kind of have it on Amazon, like the Jack Ryan series, okay? But with highly trained soldiers. So it sounds really interesting. And I want to see how that kind of environment and action and dialogues and plot progression works on a space opera setting. So yeah, I'm going to give it a try. And if you have read it, let me know what you think about it. The Tin Galleon Duology by Jake Theriault. I hope I'm pronouncing the surname correctly. It's been pretty easy today because I usually butcher names and surnames like there's no tomorrow. But this one has two books. The first one is The Hollow Sun and the other one is Hydra 1. You know, the basic premise is that there's this group of the troop of a cargo vessel, the main crew, and during a mission, when they're docked on a station, they get involved with an invasion of that station, and they have to survive, of course. But at the same time, it looks like that the invaders, they're searching for someone that the members of the crew of our main cast, they actually know who those invaders are actually searching for. So there's something going on deeper than that. And yet the covers look really nice because they look like they have this 90s vibes, or even older, the classic space opera vibe that we don't find anymore that much because we usually go today for computer graphics, but this one looks painted. So it's really classic and I love it. I like almost also the typography and the fonts. They're really interesting. So let's give it a try. I have actually arcs for both these two books, and then I will absolutely give them a try really soon. The Z Team or Z Team? What do you say? Z is in the US and Z in Canada? I don't know. Anyway, let's say the Z Team by Chris Desantis. And this is a space opera about, which, by the way, has incredible covers. This is straight out of a high-budget science fiction movie. And it says that we have a motley crew of a really ragged and really bad freighter. They struggle to make ends meet and to find new jobs. But at the same time, they are tasked to keep on board a new member that is being hunted by headhunters. And this new member could be connected to a huge tragedy that it's told at the beginning of the story, because there's this planet called Aria that was destroyed, split in half, and 50 billion 50 million souls died because of this incredible tragedy that could be a sign of a huge conspiracy. So this motley crew has to bring in this new member. They have to run from the headhunters, and at the same time they have to discover what's going on with this mass destruction on this planet. It sounds really interesting, reviews are really good, and I'll absolutely give it a try as soon as possible. The Wall by Brian Penn. It's the first book in a trilogy, the Wall trilogy. This is a dystopia, and I love them. I'd like to read much more of them, because they usually give us poignant reflections about our world, our life, the choices we do, and our culture. This one is set in the not so distant future, and it is about a civil war. The world has been divided by a huge wall between people that basically became immortal and all the others. The fact is that on the other side of the wall, where this new species of immortal lives, it sounds like there is a conspiracy there, of course, because to achieve that status, to live forever, something really bad happens. A really high price has to be paid. And the protagonist is a smuggler that lives on the other side. He's a loser, of course, but he wants to reunite with his beloved one, his girlfriend, that, as far as I can tell, has been relegated against her will on the other side of the wall with this kind of immortal people. And the only way for him to reunite with her, and at the same time bring forward some kind of a rebellion against this dictatorships and this kind of dystopia, is to infiltrate that world and pretend to be one of those immortals. So it sounds really intriguing, kind of comforting, because it reminds me of the golden age of dystopian books that we had during the 2012, around that decade. And many of those books are between my favorites. The first Maze Runner is one of my favorite dystopians ever, even if it is a young adult. I'm not ashamed of that. I love the Younger Games, and I'm waiting for the second prequel to come. Should be published in Italy in March. I don't know when it will be released in the US, but I will crush that puppy absolutely when it comes out. So yeah, this one sounds really interesting, and I will absolutely try to give it a try in 2025. Then we have One Spark by Holly D. Morgan. This is the first book in a trilogy, and it has a really wild idea. It says that in this world you have to take a medication to keep at bay something that happens, because until a certain age you keep that medication, and when you grow up you stop keeping that medication if you cannot pay for it anymore, as far as I can understand. And if the author is watching, please feel free to correct me. If you don't take that medication, you can actually burst into flames, because in this world emotion have this kind of physical manifestation and affect the lifestyle of people in a very concrete way. But also the setting of this world is in a future that has been the result of some kind of huge conflict, life-ending proportional of conflict, and the world has been split in 7 republics. And it sounds really interesting. It sounds a little bit of dystopian, with this wild idea, with this high concept, and it is about members of a family that they get split and they have to try to reunite It sounds really strange, really interesting. I want to know more about the concept, and I want to know how that kind of concept actually influences the character development and the plot. So let's see how it goes. If you have read it, let me know. I will absolutely give it a try really soon. Blood of Beasts, the first book of the Gene Shifters series by Rebecca Lemke. This is a genre blend because it looks like superhero fiction and at the same time dystopia, because it's about a future when there's been biological warfare, the world was destroyed, and they have created super soldiers to protect what remains of the United States. The protagonist of this specific story is a woman that was one of those super soldiers, but she was able to run away and to live a life, to rebuild a new life under false identity, until she's forced to reuse again to show her incredible abilities, and that destroyed what she was able to build. And that's the inside incident. I like this kind of mashup, this genre blend. I want to know how it works, and yeah, I'll give it a try pretty soon. Okay, this one sounds really ambitious. The title is V.I.P.E.R. It's the first book in the Inheritance of the Fallen series by V.H. Balaban, and it says that 10,000 years ago humanity was almost wiped out, and now they have returned to claim their inheritance. Who's they and why? We have our protagonist, and it's called Kaya Marinoch. She is a lieutenant, a commander of a spaceship that has been sent out to investigate attacks by this by this mysterious force that has been resurging lately. And she has to investigate, to understand, and probably fight against this this new resurging ominous menace. And at the same time, she has to struggle between the politics of the actual organization and with alien species and alien forces. Says there's some kind of distrust inside of the crew. And yeah, it sounds really interesting, really epic and big in scope, and I want to know what's going on with this 10,000 years old menace resurfacing, and let's see how it goes. I'll let you know. The Fera, the first book in the Space Marauders series. I think we have 3 books out. I don't know if the series is completed or if it's actually just a trilogy. The author is Lorena Para. And this has a really interesting and really poignant, really actual modern thematics. It is about cybernetically modified veterans that find themselves abandoned after and cast aside by their very people that once they fought to protect. And using the only skills that they have, these sailors turn to a life of galactic piracy. And I think that, oh, by the way, the protagonist is one of those. He's a woman that's lost her job and is forced to join one of those pirate crews. I think it's a really delicate subject matter, but also really interesting, because we see it today in our daily life, in our world, that many veterans, when they come back, they have really poor mental health because of the horrors that they have seen, and they often feel like they've been abandoned by the state and by the people that actually they fought and they tried to protect for so many years. So there's a lot of interesting discussion to be done in this kind of stories, given the basic idea and the thematics. And I want to see how it is explored in the context of a huge space opera and science fiction story. So let's give it a try. Let's see how it works. That's all I've got for you today, but I can assure you that I have a ton of recommendations and suggestions on that Reddit post, on the Twitter threads, and on Threads as an app. So if you want to click for more suggestions, you can find on the links down below. And if you want me to do another videos with those suggestions and to talk about those really interesting science fiction books, just let me know. Because yes, there is a ton of things to discuss about. A treasure chests of science fiction books that we could potentially read and love. So let me know. And of course, if you enjoy science fiction and fantasy books, this is the perfect place for you. So if you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing, leave a like, share this video. And you can also check out my own fantasy novel, The Crimson Fire, Arcs advanced reader copies are floating around right now. If you want to read the book before the actual release, you can contact me. The book will be released on April 29. And if you want to see more videos like this, right here, right now, you have more videos right here, right now. Thank you for being here until the end of this very long video. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.